light of the discussion really around collaboration and interventions, projects and programs where a lot of money is spent on projects, I think often one gets very excited and you come up with this idea, well, this is the program we want to engage when we see there's an appetite for it, there's an opportunity, potentially there's a policy opportunity, changes in ECD, for example. What unfortunately always happens is that the project starts and no consideration has been given to evaluating it effectively. And I really just want to implore everybody, we often we hear about changes, that the program works. There's qualitative case studies that are done. You know, principals found this leadership program really engaging. Teachers were excited about the new quality of education that they would be able to provide to children through workshops they were given, or whatever it is. But one of the major issues is that it's never quite clear what is driving that change. Is it the program itself, the intervention that you spend money on, or is there something else going on? And if you talk to academics or particularly economists, they love this term selection. So what often happens is that you see impacts, but those impacts are often driven by the fact that it's among the child that already had a high baseline level of competency, of literacy, of mathematics, and that's where actually the change is coming from. Or it was the principal that was really selected into a program or a teacher into a program that was already willing and motivated to engage in that. And so you're seeing changes, not necessarily because of the program itself, because you're tapping into something that is specific to that individual. But when you think about your interventions or programs or your collaborative opportunities, it's really critical that you think about how do we actually establish whether this program works, whether we can attribute cause to this particular project. And it means having to set aside budget beforehand to be able to do this. But you need a baseline, so measure children's outcomes, for example, at the start. Then the intervention takes place and you have a control group and a treatment group where the intervention takes place. And at the end, evaluating how those things shift. Otherwise, there's always deliberations, question marks around what is driving the change of that program. And I think when you can get some quantitative evidence that economists would say this is valid, this has been done in the most effective way, then we can start to get excited. We believe this works. There's something about this program that is changing, that is driving it. But then there's another aspect to it. You might see the change happen. You're convinced that this thing works. I mean, there's evidence on the table. It's really been evaluated effectively. But there's another area is really why has it worked? And often we don't understand the mechanisms for why things have changed. And breaking that down really through excellent monitoring and evaluation data as things go along, process evaluation of these projects and of the collaborative engagements is really critical to be able to say, can we do this again? And how do we do this better again? If you're thinking about scaling things up.
So, and actually you kind of hit on something, again, very, very specific, which is, and a lot of us in the development sector love criticizing projects for the sake of it's either lack of rigor or it's far too qualitative and not quantitative enough, or for a number of reasons. So what's very interesting is you brought up something about having a research methodology where you have a control group and a treatment group as examples. Now the real question, and let's just put it out there, the real question is, how does one go about doing that, knowing if you have a control group and a treatment group when it comes to little children, that you are effectively choosing to leave a group behind versus another group? How does one do that in reality?
Look, I mean, these are serious ethical considerations. And again, it's when you engage in these collaborations, these considerations always have to come to the party and come to the table in those conversations from the beginning. But, you know, this is where everyone gets it, I think, very wrong with research work or programs, is that we think that particular program at that point in time is the thing we need to do. No. We need to learn. We need to pilot. So you have a small impact evaluation, a smaller program, there's a treatment group, a control group. Then you scale it up. The control group is now getting something later on, and as you move forward, there is eventually access to these things. But what is more unethical? Not to have solutions, for the majority of South Africans in this country. You know, there's a numbers game to play here, and we're going, we need to find solutions, and we need to find them fast. It's the future of our country sitting in 25,000 schools, and 75 to 80% of those children are not getting something that is even close to adequate. And we are spending, just take Kenya, for example, at every level of socioeconomic status. If you compare children in South Africa to Kenya, at every level of socioeconomic status, they are doing better in Kenya, and we spend 5 times more per child than they do in Kenya. That is not good enough. And so we have to think of the numbers game. Like, if we don't have clear approaches that we believe work, which have been evaluated, it's not some anecdotal evidence. The implementer obviously has an incentive to say this works because they want to implement some more. That's not good enough. We need information that's going to say, we believe this is working, and we know why it's working. And then going, right, we're going to scale this thing up, and we're going to try again, and we're going to improve the model, and there's going to be more understanding and more learning, and we're going to scale it up even more. And you progressively learn, and you reshape the program until you've got something that is working and is effective, and we can actually say, we believe this is helping our children.
So thank you. And I definitely agree. Sorry, I had to push you on the. Has everyone heard the baby in the river story? So the baby in the river story is a lady goes to the river and she sees a baby floating down the river, and she jumps in and saves the baby, and she does that again the next day, and she asks herself the question, where are these babies coming from? And so she thinks to herself, if I go up the river to find out where these babies are coming from, I can maybe stop the babies from going into the river in the first place. And the reality is that she was stuck with the decision, do I go up the river to stop the babies from being put into the river in the first place, or do I save the baby today and the next baby, etc.? She doesn't know how long it's going to take her to get up there. And that, unfortunately, is what we're dealing with in our space, in development work. And the truth be told, without anything, there are going to be thousands of kids who don't get the necessary intervention in the first place.